What's up, guys? Happy holidays. I hope that this holiday season you've got to spend more time with your family, with your friends, and your loved ones. This episode is going to be a little bit different than the others. I don't have a guest. What I wanted to do was recap some episodes from this last year that I think will help you take home the message that there is no growth without adversity. I've compiled a few clips from past podcast guests. Each one of these clips, you'll hear their stories. What I really wanted to paint was the picture of like whether you're starting your career or in the middle of your career or near the end of your career, everyone has challenges and problems and adversity that they have to overcome. And so I want to get into these clips, and this is what I want to share with you guys. Instead of coming out with an episode where I'm interviewing somebody, I wanted to share this content with you guys because I think it's important to highlight the challenges. There's things that everyone's dealing with. Again, no matter where you are in your journey in life, you're going to face adversity. You're going to face challenges. You're going to face problems. And my hope for you guys is that you are able to come out the other side a better person. You're able to come out the other side better. You're able to come out the other side growing from these experiences. Listen to individuals, hear their stories, and get a good reminder that nothing in life is really linear and perfect, and everyone has hardships. This first clip is episode 27 with Mitch Ramirez, and he's going to take you through his experience of going to prison for almost 4 years. Most of you guys listening to this have not had jail time or prison time. He also overcame a heroin addiction where he overdosed multiple times. Let's check out this clip with Mitch Ramirez.
The story is a story of like, I didn't just grow and become myself. I took steps. These were different steps in my progression as a human being, and the first step that I carved out of that mountain was just empathizing and looking at myself from an outside perspective of what I've been doing and what I've been doing to myself. And then it was, getting the courage to do something about it, and it just so on and so forth, these things. And, these ledges, some of these ledges that I got on weren't fun ledges. They were terrible points in my life, but it was one step above where I was. 100%. And I did it and I refused to go back down. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
So rehab, kick the drugs, everything's going good. I get out. I'm so stoked to live a life where I'm not doing drugs and I'm not doing all this crazy stuff to myself, but I haven't dealt with my trauma yet. I just don't want to do drugs, but I haven't addressed why I'm doing drugs. Right. And within 7 months, I think it was within, honestly, probably 3 months, I'd started to train again. I was like, I'm fighting. This is something I want to do now. I want to at least give this a shot. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm going to go to school and I'm going to do this. It was like, I could probably get this charge lessened over the next few years. I could maybe still do some of the stuff I want to do.
You're how old at this point?
I'm 20.
Can we get a brief background on your skill set in MMA? Did you do wrestling as a kid? Did you do boxing? What did you do?
Yeah, so I grew up wrestling. When I was like real little, I probably got made to wrestle 2 or 3 seasons as a little kid just because the parents tell you what to do. And then went back to when I want to say like in 6th and 7th grade, I wrestled again. But then it was kind of like, I played baseball. I played other sports and wrestling for me. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like the thing that I thought about all the time. Once I found MMA, fighting is like, okay, fighting's cool. And then I wanted to wrestle. When I found MMA at 14, I wanted to wrestle again because it would make me a better fighter. Right. So that's when I started boxing a little bit. That's when I started going to like Muay Thai classes and jiu-jitsu classes at 14. And then wrestled again in high school for pretty good high school for Pleasant Grove, right? Wrestled a couple seasons for them. And just kind of honed and just was like, it's funny because even throughout the crazy stuff I was doing, I was still like building some skills somehow. I was still making my way to these practices. I was still getting into these places. I was still watching these fights. I was almost like peripherally growing into who I was going to be, like unconsciously, just because it was fun. But I didn't see where I was going to go with it. It was just like, this gives me confidence, makes me feel good about myself, and I'm good at it, so I'm going to keep doing it. Right. So those two things were kind of like dually meeting. And when I got out of rehab and when I was in rehab, I met some cool people. I'd already known Court McGee before this, right, from the gym and heard his story. But in rehab, he came and told his story and really inspired me to be like, oh, well, if he could do it, I could do it. We became close friends and we're still friends to this day. I really wanted to give this a shot, and I was training and I was doing these things. I was going to practices, but I'd gotten in trouble for that felony and I was on house arrest. And long story short, I screwed up. My PO got mad at me and took away my privileges to go train. And now I couldn't train anymore. So that was the only positive thing I had in my life. Their punishment was to not let me go to the fight gym anymore. So now I'm just at home thinking about myself all the time. And I had like a month left, 2 months left on this house arrest. And in those 2 months, I just deteriorated mentally. I wasn't around the people I needed to be around. I was on my, you know what I mean? And the first day I got off, I went to a party. Like I'd just been waiting to go to a party. And I went around some old friends and did a lot of drinking and relapsed on some pills, and I was drunk, and I woke up and was like, man, I really screwed up. And this is where shit really hit the fan. This is like November 11th of 2012. I went out with some old friends, and long story short, without getting into too many details, we decided we were going to rob a local drug dealer. Right. So we did. And I was pretty intoxicated when I did it. I'd taken a lot of pills and some stuff like that. And to be honest with you, I remember a lot of it, but I probably don't remember all of it. I don't remember all of it. I remember like some key points, to be honest with you, and kind of woke up in jail. Honestly, like I kind of came to, like, I remember like spurts of what was going on. But then I just basically woke up in jail and had the craziest felony charges on me, dude. Like home invasion, robbery, gang enhancement, entering a dwelling. Like, I mean, dude, it was like life sentence caps on a lot of these charges. I think I had 3 or 4 charges that were 5 years to life, minimum mandatory in the state penitentiary. Right. Like that was over my head, all with like a gang enhancement, because we did it there was 3 people involved. And in Utah, they have all these crazy laws that allow them just to like bury you if you do something crazy. So, and then long story short, my 2 co-defendants that honestly, dude, I'd actually been doing good. These 2 guys were kind of still up to no good. And, you can't blame anybody for your actions or anything, but I definitely wasn't my idea. Let's put it that way. And when it all came down to it, though, they both turned state's evidence, and one got out in 3 months and one got out in 6 months, and I got buried and they sent me to prison for 40 months. Right. At 20 years old.
So say that last, what did they do that got them out earlier?
Turned state's evidence. So they snitched.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Okay. They snitched on me.
Yeah.
They wrote statements and took the stand and talked about how it was all my fault basically, and went home to see their families, and I went to prison.
Hey, everyone's real until they get the books thrown at them. Right?
Oh yeah, everybody. And I at the time, it made me really kind of bitter, like, oh man, these are good friends of mine too. I know because I was like 12. So talk about trust issues, like totally made me like, I don't fuck with anybody anymore after this. And it's still honestly something to this day that I deal with. Like, I don't really have a lot of close people to me. Like I have a very small network of people that I actually associate with on a daily basis, because I've just learned like, I don't let anybody in the circle that I don't, or I only let you in as far into the circle as you can be without me like risking anything. Does that make sense? Like, it's almost like I've had to like, okay, like that was so extreme. I really thought I could trust these guys, to be honest with you. I really did. And I was arguing with my attorney the whole time, dude. They'd never do that to me. And I refused to write statements. They'd never do that to me. And then they both took the stand, and I was like, and it was too late, So at that point, it's like, well, you didn't stand up for yourself even. So see ya. Like I said, man, things happen the way they happen. And I had to learn how to let go of that while I was in prison. Cause shit, dude, you sit in these places for that long and you associate that with somebody else. I just took, extreme responsibility of my actions. And, you can blame and say this and say that. But the fact of the matter is I did rob that dude. I did do those things. So it's like, whether they snitched on me or not, whether they betrayed anything else, like I still have my shit. I shouldn't have been doing that. I need to figure myself out. That doesn't mean that I need to be their homie again, or like, make up with them or anything like that. But like, I need to forget about them almost, or forgive them in a way to allow myself to be who I am. 100%, so that was a huge challenge of mine. But the next 40 months were pretty gnarly, dude. I, at 20 years old, I fished into prison. I remember fishing into Utah State Prison, and I remember like after this, after the strip search and everything else, and getting chained to a pipe, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'd already been in jail for like 10 months, but now you're in prison. Like, it's just a different animal. And like, I remember sitting in there and I looked over this guy next to me, dude. It was like, I mean, that prison, they moved it now, luckily, but it was so decrepit, dude. I don't know how they even house people in there. Like, in the winter, bro, let's put it this way. On some of these cell blocks, the windows are all broken out. And in the winter, you got to break the ice on your toilet to take a piss.
Oh, shit.
You know what I mean? It's like, dude, decrepit, rusted, no, like paint falling off. Like, I mean, looking like a condemned building that you got to live in. And it's full of the craziest people you've ever heard of.
In Utah.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. It was terrible. Like, and just like not a lot of care, not a lot of at that point, you're just getting put somewhere. So you're not around normal people. And then it's the jungle, dude. So, that's like, in that moment, I remember that was another like realization of like, okay, Like, I remember looking at this guy next to me, who was a younger guy too, you know, and we both kind of looked, we were both fish. They call it fishing in, like you're a fish when you first go to prison. And I remember looking at him like we were both fish, and we both looked at each other and just kind of like gave each other like a little like sideways smile. And I was like, we really fucked up this time, didn't we? And he's like, yeah, dude. Like, yeah, we did. I was like, we did it, dude. This is not good. Like, I have to stay here.
Right.
I'm not going
that's
home.
What is that? 3.5 years? 4 years?
So, yeah. So that was like, I did, you know, it was 10 months fighting that case. And then I went to prison for another 2.5 years.
Okay.
Right. So, and that was bouncing me around all these different counties and different stuff like that. But, you know, during that time, I was going to
say, what did you pull out of? I'm sure you had some like epiphanies, pivotal moments during that time frame.
I taught myself how to be a man in prison.
Wow.
Honestly, when I went to prison at 20 years old, I was just a kid. You know, I didn't really have a lot of life experience. I'd never had to like get myself, you know, sure, I went to school and things like that, but I never had to do anything like responsible on my own. I never like had like a huge goal that I chased or anything like that. And fighting had always been this thing that I wanted to do. It's really all I wanted to do, but I was like I said, didn't have the confidence and like believe in myself enough. And the silver lining to this situation was these charges will not be reduced, bro. And if they are, that's going to be a real long time. Like, you're looking at 10 years before you can even think about that of being perfect. So you are scarlet lettered, bro. And you're not dealing with a drug charge. You're dealing with like, I got stuck with robbery. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, you go to an employer and robbery is on your.
Was it armed robbery?
No, they're not armed. It was just regular robbery. Yeah. But
just regular,
just regular, you know, just regular old robbery.
You know,
nothing too crazy. But that was like, but that type of charge, it was like, even when I got out, we'll get to that, but that's just such a bad charge to have, dude. Like, that's not one that you can be like, listen, it's not how it seems. Like, it's like, nah, bro. Right, like,
exactly.
I don't know about that, you know? So that was where I realized, like, I just looked around at the guys in there, you know, and what they were doing and what their lives looked like. You know, the guys that were twice my age that had done the same thing I'd done and all these things. And, you know, there's not a lot that I'm afraid of, but becoming one of those guys was so scary to me. Listen to these guys trash their baby mamas on the phone and for $20 on their books so they can buy more ramen noodles and they can, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, you're 50, bro. Like, you got 3 kids across two women that you treat like shit. You know, it's like, man, like, and all you're talking about is, you know, when this next shipment of drugs is going to come in the prison so you can get high again. You know, it's like, whoa, dude, like, and you were me once upon a time, you know, and like, they would tell me that, like, oh, you think you're going to be somebody, but you're not. Like, guys would actively tell you that. They're just crabs and they want to pull you back down. So pretty early, you know, I set some goals for myself of like, you know what? I had this moment, dude, honestly, where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but I wanted to fight. And I realized that like fighting was probably the only thing I could do that I wanted to do anymore. So it was like, almost like I pigeonholed myself into doing what I wanted to do somehow. Like fate just was like, hey, guess what, dude? Like, you can't really do anything else you want to do other than fighting. This is the only avenue that's going to accept you now. You're not going to be a pilot. You're not going to the military. You're not doing any of that shit. It's not happening. It's off the table. But you could be a professional fighter and the sky's the limit. So for me, it was like, you know, you can't kill what's already dead. You know, it's like I have nothing to lose. Like, these other guys, like, and that's the other thing too. Like, when I fight, like, I have no problem switching that gear, dude. Like, everybody's like, oh, this mental spot and this mental spot. I'm like, bro, like, I live in that mental spot. Like, and everybody's like, oh, you could do something else. Not that I'd be happy doing. Not that I want to do. This is all I want. This is what I want to do. You know, the other stuff I can't do. So I'm so invested, bro. I will die in there for it. Like, I do. There's no backing out. There's for me, that's like my mentality. And that's why I believe I've had the success so far in fighting, and I'll continue to have the success, is because I don't go in there worried about, oh, am I going to get hurt? Or is he going to check this kick? Or is he going to do that? Like, it's like, no, dude, like, I'm either killing you or I'm killing both of us. But you're not getting out of here in one piece, no matter how this plays out.
Let's go. It's like, so that makes you a really dangerous opponent.
Yes.
Is that why? And now I'm moving a little bit forward here, but is that why it's hard for you to get fights?
I think so. Yeah, probably.
Bro, because I there's a couple podcast episodes where like I had this fight, he pulled out. I had this fight, he pulled out. I had this guy, you know what I mean? And it's just one thing after the other. Why?
I think it's like you said, you know, some of that. And I think going back to the prison thing, I spent that time, like, I haven't always been like this big or like this, like physical, you know, you're bigger than you look on camera. Yeah. Which is weird because it's usually opposite. I'm pretty big right now, honestly. But once I decided this is what I was going to do, it became this like super scary thing that was like, it was scary enough to motivate me to like do it. Yeah. You know, it was like doing something like just going to school and becoming an accountant or something was like, dude, I'll I don't know if I'll be able to keep my life together if that's what I got to go do. You know, I've got to, I mean, some people can do that, but I'm just not built like that, dude. Like I never have been. But you know, for me, it was, once I decided that this was what I was going to do, I went full force, dude. While I was in prison, I was writing out training blocks. I was, you know, for my birthday one year, I think I had my mom send me a textbook on anatomy. Like I realized I was like, hey, I can be like a private contractor personal trainer that to pay my bills because nobody's going to hire me. And then I can just train and then I'll just become a fighter. I was like, okay, I literally had this conversation with myself. I was like, you can go to school for 4 years and get a bachelor's degree, or you can literally live on the mat for 4 years and then you'd get a bachelor's degree. And then you can do 2 more for your master's and then 2 more for your doctorate. And like, that's the way I looked at it, is like, when I put these hours into this profession, I will have this level of competence that will allow me to earn a living doing this. And I literally made that agreement with myself when I was in a prison cell. And I remember being like, knowing that I knew not what I was getting. Like I'd seen guys do this and I knew how hard it was. And I think that's why I didn't have the confidence early on, but I knew what I was getting myself into was going to be super gnarly, way gnarlier than I even could understand. Like if that makes sense, because you just don't know until you actually do it. But I made myself a promise. I'll remember the day. Like I remember when I really decided to do this when I was in prison, like, no, dude, I'm going to be a professional fighter, not just a professional fighter, but I'm going to fight at the highest level that the world can offer. And I'm going to be a household name by the end of this. And I won't stop until I do. There's no other option for me. I'm just going to become the best I can be. And every day was training. I was known in there, dude. Nobody would work out with me because I'd just bury you. Like I'd never kept a workout partner the whole time I was in prison. Like I was always doing something. I'd make mitts out of toilet paper and socks and have my buddy hold mitts for me in the cell. You know what I mean? we were always trying. I remember I made like a double end bag out of toilet paper and a sock and like braided sheets that I'd hang under the stairs when the guards weren't around, and I'd try to work on my shit. And like, I was just always trying to do something to make myself better in there. And I was reading and I was staying out of shit. I wasn't gambling. I wasn't doing drugs. I wasn't doing any of that. I was locked in, and this is what I was going to do, is my destiny. And I managed to maintain that level of, attention and dedication throughout that whole stay. And when I got out, it was like ground running, found fight gym. I think I managed to get a job for the last like year I was in there. And I think I saved up, they were paying me like $5 a day, dude, to bust my ass. And I think I saved up like $400. And that $400 is when I bought my first like rash guard. I bought a rash guard. I bought fight shorts. I bought a gym bag, and I think I bought a pair of shin pads. And my brother gifted me a pair of boxing gloves when I came home.
This next clip is episode 29 with Winnie the Drew. And Winnie the Drew is one of the most followed tattoo artists. He was also facing prison time, and he realized very quickly that his actions and his decisions would dictate the rest of his life. After he overcame some of these challenges, and you'll hear how, he also decided that he wanted a career path that most people wouldn't consider at the time. I don't know if the stigma's changing now, but they wouldn't consider tattoo artistry a career. And so he faced the challenge that it is, that where nobody, not your family, not your friends, not your parents, believes in your dream. And he was able to show everybody and prove everybody wrong and follow his dream. So let's get into this next clip. Were there any moments that were kind of your come to Jesus moment?
Definitely, man. Yeah. There's been a couple of those, man. There was a time when I was very sad. Like I did let the weight of my trials really weigh down on me. So I became a dad really young. I was 18 when I had my son. And that really was a big turning point for me, because life had a lot more purpose at that point. But I still didn't really fully get it. And I had 2 kids, 10 months apart from each other, greatest blessings in my life. And I was really young, I had them really young, and I was still a dipshit,
I love that. Hey, call it what it is, right?
Hey, it is what it is, man. I'm very real about that. I'm very self-aware of that. Man, I was up at every turn, and I was not in a place where I felt a sense of purpose, but I didn't really recognize that, and I wasn't really following that. I had some idea of purpose, but I didn't have a definitiveness in my purpose. And there was a time where I hit rock bottom, bro. It was intense. So it was on my 21st birthday when this happened. I had thrown a big party at my friend's apartment, and I had my fanny pack on, my wallet inside of it, and $1,200. It's all I had to my name. And I woke up and my money was gone. Someone had taken my money out of my wallet. And I freaked out. I was like, where's my money? I turned this whole apartment up. And there was 2 kids that were not at the party the night before, or who were at the party the night before, who weren't there anymore. And so I called them. I figured one of them had to have had my money. I was like, you guys better get back here. I'm gonna come burn your house down. That's all the money I got. And this was on my 21st birthday. And one of them comes back and he brings a gun. And dude, I grew up in Kaysville, Utah. Like I did not grow up around that kind of like heat or violence. You know what I mean? And so like I saw his gun and I instinctually freaked out. I took his gun and I was like, that situation got so real. And I was like, okay, everyone sit down. No one's moving until I get my money. And I put myself in a position.
Wait, so what happened? So he comes with a gun.
Comes with a gun, he shows it.
And then you grab it, you snatch it?
Yeah, I'm like, pull it from his waistband. And shit got so real. That was the first time I had ever held a gun. And I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And I was like, shit, I've seen some gangster movies. So I was like, everyone sit down. Ain't no one leaving this motherfucker till I get my money. Dude, and inside I'm freaking out. I'm sweating. I'm just like, holy shit. And dude, I went to the bathroom and like emptied the clip because I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna throw up. Like it was like so much adrenaline made me sick. One of them had texted someone to call the cops. So I'm sitting in this living room and everyone is sitting on the couch. I'm standing up and I'm like interrogating my friends at the time. And I'm like, I need this fucking money. Another one of you guys took my money. This is not cool. It's my birthday. I can't believe you guys would do this to me. And there's a window behind them and the blinds are open. And I see a laser cross my vision. And I look out the window and there's a cop on top of a car with an M4 like pointed right at me.
Oh shit.
Oh shit is right. That's what I thought. I was like, oh my God. So I drop down to the ground. SWAT team kicks the door in, beats the shit out of me, pulls me out and takes me to jail. And I'm just like, what the
Welcome to
fuck
21.
just happened? Yeah.
Jeez.
Happy 21st birthday.
Damn.
And I was like, oh my God, I need to get out. It's my birthday. I got dinner tonight. And I tell that to one of the officers that's booking me. I'm like, when am I going to get out and get my money? Like this is wrong. I was the one that was robbed. They took my money. I have birthday dinner tonight with my family. I need to get out of here. And he looks at me. He's like, you're not going anywhere for 25 to life. And I'm like, what? What did you just say? He's like, you're facing 7 first-degree felonies. You're not going anywhere. And I was like, what the fuck? How did I end up in this position? You know? And so I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, this is what just happened. And I tell her the whole story. She's freaking out at me. And all of a sudden she drops the phone and I hear my daughter scream. And she was 1 at the time. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I just hear my baby like crying in the background and my mom's freaking out. Everyone's freaking out. And she's like, my mom picks up the phone. She's like, Oakley just fell on top of the dog's cage and it went through her cheek. And your dumbass isn't here to do anything about it, and hangs up. And I was just like, what the fuck? And that was like, that was fucking rock bottom for me. I was like, I realized that no one else had put me there besides myself. It wasn't, I tried to blame it on my friends who had robbed me, taken my money. I tried to blame it on like the dog's kennel. Like I tried to place blame outside of myself in every way. And I was sat down in the realest way and faced with the fact that like it was my life decisions that had put me in that position to be there at that moment. And that was a huge turning point for me. And in that, I realized like I am in control of my choices. I am in control of what I do, my actions, and that is what dictates how my life turns out, and that changed a lot in my life. And I'm so grateful that I went through that. I'm so grateful that I went to jail in that moment and that I had to go through that trial, because that was one of the hardest, most challenging. At that point, it was the hardest thing I'd ever had to do.
So I'm going to ask what all the viewers are going to ask right now, which is what happened? What ended up happening?
So I fought the case, and I got charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, because I I pistol whipped the kid when I took his gun.
You defended yourself.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you, don't defend yourself.
Yeah. And I got charged with telecommunications harassment for when I called them and told them if they didn't bring my money back, I was going to burn their house down. And all the other charges were dropped. I paid a lot for a lawyer to help me out in that situation. And I was sentenced to 300 days in jail. And so I had fought the case for a year, and then I spent another 300 days in jail for my sentencing. And it was crazy. In that moment, like when I thought that I was never going to be with my kids again, I was like, how am I ever going to replace my presence in my children's life if I can't be there? Because like my biological dad didn't get to be a part of my life for the first 15 years because he was in prison. I was like, I cannot believe that like I'm going to have to do something like I did that to my kids. How can I ever replace my life, my presence in their life? So I wrote down every good thing that I ever knew, that I had ever learned. And I love writing. I'm very well spoken. And I was like, I can write a book for them. So I hand wrote a book for my kids. It's like a playbook of like all of the good attributes that I would want them to have. And I illustrated the whole thing for them. And that's what I did with my 300 days in there. And I'm also very grateful that I went to jail because I was sat down in timeout. It forced me to, be faced with that type of discipline. It taught me discipline, and it taught me a lot of good habits. That is where I started waking up early every day, started making my bed every day, started writing in a gratitude journal every day, started reading and writing every day. I read 142 books in there. I wrote every day. I made my bed every day. I was like very disciplined, and I came out a more refined person, and I came out with a lot of recognition, that I'm in control of my life. Even if I'm placed in a situation that was, what I thought was out of my control, it was my choices that put me there. And what am I going to do about it now? And I've carried those habits and that mental fortitude forward, and I made a lot of goals in there. I made a lot of plans in there that have come into fruition. That's where I decided I wanted to get out, become the greatest tattoo artist ever. I wanted to open my own shop. I named my shop in there. And, years later I finally opened it, and like I started to manifest all of these things that I once thought were dreams, and I'm glad it happened, man. It was intense, but that was a huge turning point in my life that made me realize like I can be what I want to be. I can be who I want to be, and I'm in control of that.
Thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy how rock bottom can really build people. Like I was imagining Goku in the hyperbolic chamber or whatever that thing's called, where he just fucking 100 times gravity of Earth and just training to become that's what it sounded like. The 300 days, the 10 months in prison was for you, or was it jail?
Jail.
You transition out of it. It sounds like you got a whole new lease on life. Like the causation of your actions were probably visceral at that point. It's like, oh shit, every action has a consequence. I get that now. Now you're envisioning the type of person you want to become, right? Would you say it happened overnight, like in that year in jail, or was it still kind of for you a journey before you became this, the person you are today? Did you still have to have a few, trials and learning lessons throughout that time? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like not 9 day. Okay.
Yeah. It taught me a lot, and it made me grow up in a lot of ways, There was still a lot of work to be done, and there was still a lot of situations that put me in the place to, to have to experience serious moments of growth and, hard realizations like that. But it definitely set me on my path. I got out, and it was a challenge to assimilate back into life, but I had a lot more tools in my utility belt to use in that. And so I came out, had no money to my name, had to figure out how to build off of that. But there was still a lot of hard lessons to come, but that definitely like set me on my path especially in tattooing, because I knew without a doubt like that is what I wanted to do, and I had known that I had made that choice already, but that choice became very real after that, because there was a time after that I was like working towards wanting to tattoo, really becoming the artist that I am now and the person that I am now. But I had made the choice before then, before all of that happened. I was going to school full time. I was playing rugby up at the U of U, and so I was like pretending to go to school, but really just I was up there to play ball.
Yeah.
And I was working 2 full-time jobs, but I knew that I wanted to tattoo, and I knew that I had to dive into that and dedicate myself to that. And so I had quit both of my jobs and dropped out of school on the same day. I remember the day that I told my parents that. They were like, "What the hell are you thinking? Like, what have you done?" And I remember like it was yesterday, man. I had just told my mom, and she's like, "Wait till your dad gets home." So he gets home. He had just gone, and I remember where he went because of the conversation that we had, but he had just gotten home from getting my mom food at Arby's. He pulls up. I tell him, I'm like, "Dad, quit both of my jobs and I dropped out of school today. I'm going to tattoo." He's like, "Okay, here's what you're going to do. I was just down at Arby's, and they had a sign in the window that said that they're hiring. You're going to go down there and get a real job." And I was like so hurt that he didn't see tattooing as a real job. Like I had the vision for what I wanted to do, and to his credit, he was just trying to be a good dad. He was trying to look out for me, and he just didn't understand what I was wanting to do.
And last but not least, this is episode 25, part 1, which is episode 25 with Paul Hutchinson. And Paul Hutchinson is a business titan. He had built a multi-billion-dollar business. He was the founder of that business. And then he went on to found a nonprofit and go on 70 undercover missions to rescue children from child trafficking and from sexual exploitation. This one is really interesting because from our vantage point, we see a guy who has it all. The mansions, the supercars, the relationships, the connections, the bank account, the financials. In that stage of life, you're also going to realize he had adversity and challenges and problems that aren't readily apparent. And he's going to take you through his own emotional growth. And so let's get into this next clip. How do you get into the right mindset for those situations? What is your psychology like
when I'm going into undercover work? It goes back to what we spoke about before, wherein fear and faith cannot exist in the same person at the same time, right? When you have unwavering conviction about something, unwavering, John chapter 5 talks about having faith unwavering. That's the key word there is unwavering. And faith, a lot of people think that faith is a religious term. Faith is a universal law. It's the most powerful law in the universe. And it's simply this. It's the unwavering conviction that what I want to have happen will happen. People have a hard time with unwavering conviction about anything. Should I marry this woman? Should I start this new job? Should I move to this new city? Whatever. And it's because they don't know if it's in line with what their God wants, right? In these situations, when we're doing undercover work, it is easy for me to have that unwavering conviction because I don't care if you believe that God is a man or a woman or a mountain or a cloud or a universe or a whatever. It doesn't matter. There's no higher power in the universe that's okay with an 8-year-old being raped, period, right? So it's easy for me to have unwavering conviction that the powers of God and the powers of the universe will come into play and will lead me to them and will keep me safe every time. And so by having that unwavering conviction, I can move forward. I had a talk with some Navy SEALs that were on the first time they were doing undercover with me. And they said, "Paul, I want to see what you do. How do you do this?" And I told them this story. I told them about the unwavering conviction. And they're like, "Okay." I said, and I said, you've seen the movie Finding Dory? Finding Nemo, the second one, Finding Dory, this stupid fish with a 2-second memory, right? And her parents are somewhere in the ocean complex, and she just keeps on swimming, and pretty soon she finds them. I said, "Guys, I might operate like Dory tonight." They're like, "What?" I said, "Because I'm not going to follow logic and protocol.
Right.
I'm listening." As I put my hand on my heart, I'm listening here. And I said, every single one of these rescue missions, that's what it's about. It's about listening. In fact, just one last year, recently, we were in Ecuador, And the federal agents asked us to come and follow up with some leads. And there was a little girl that we had already worked with that was in the hospital. She had gotten beat up by some of the traffickers. She was taken and she was told that she needed to earn $1,000 a day, otherwise she'd get beat up. This was the third time that she'd gotten beat up, and this was so bad she was in the hospital. So we were able to extract enough information to find out this area that she was in. And so the federal agents take me and a couple of my guys, and they drop us off into this area downtown. They said, this is the area that she said that she was in, is this area downtown that she was being trafficked. We said, okay. They says, just see what you can find down here. So we get out, and there's this courtyard, and I'm standing there in the middle of the courtyard, and there's drug dealer, prostitute, just kind of, it's a seedy area of town, and I'm just listening with my heart, just listening. And I'm looking around, nothing feels right. And then I look down this alley, and there was this girl that was kind of leaning back against a wall with her foot up against the wall. And immediately I felt it. That's it right there. So I grabbed one of my guys. I said, come here. Let's come with me real quick. And we go up there, and this is the kind of thing that happens every time, right? We go up there, and I say, ¿Cómo se llama? And she answers at Effie. That's your name, right? Okay. I'm like, and she says $10, $10.
Wow.
Horrible, how seedy, and I pull out a $20 bill, and she goes, "Oh, dos Effie?" I says, "No." Gosh. I said in my broken Spanish, I said, I've got a friend coming down looking for something he can't get in the U.S. If you have some connections with some younger. She goes, "Oh no, I don't know anything about it." Okay. I just put the money back in my pocket. I went back down to the courtyard with the other guys, and less than 2 minutes later, she comes down. She's pointing at me. She's, come here. I go over, and she goes, "Follow me." We go down this different alley around the corner. I went with one of the guys, and we come up, and there's these two big wooden doors, and these guys out in front folding their arms, big dudes, and an old crappy sign that said hostel over the top. It wasn't a hostel. This was a front for a brothel for children.
Wow.
Right? And tell them what we're looking for, and they open the door, and there's some children right there. I said, "Yep, that's what my boss wants." "Yep, exactly." We geotagged the location. I exchanged contact information with him. Went back to made sure we weren't being followed. Went back to the undercover van, got in, told the federal agent, showed them the place, and they said, "Oh, that's exactly where she said she was being sold." They didn't tell me exactly. It was an 8-block area, right? And less than 5 minutes after being there, by listening, finding the right person, we were being led there. Then the next one was super powerful. They said, "Okay, now we're going to go, and there's a place we got some leads on. There's this spa that does nails and hair and stuff, but they had a massage place in the back that was selling children out of it. It was a front for this place selling children." So they drove around the city and got to this other place, and then the federal agent goes, "Oh crap, yeah." I said, "What?" He says, "It's closed down. They've already they must have got tipped off that we were coming. The whole place is closed. So the spa's not even there anymore." And I said, "No, stop." Because I could feel it. I knew there were still children there. I knew it. He says, "Stop." This is why. I said, "Stop. I can feel it. They're still here." And this is what happens when you're following unwavering faith and coming from a place of pure integrity. You'll be able to be more sensitive to those intuitions in every area of your life. And so he says, "Okay." He stops, and I get out. And one of the Green Berets, Petter that was there with us, he opens the door, and a couple of my operators get out. I get out, and I go to the back of the van, and I'm just listening from the heart. I'm just listening. I'm looking back and forth. I'm looking at this place that the kids used to be, this spa area, and there was a restaurant that was on the left-hand side, and I felt I need to go in there. I went into the restaurant, and I went right to the manager. And I said, "Hey, I'm supposed to, my friends told me about a massage place here." I said, "Is this still here?" And he said, "You got an appointment?" Freaking knew that place was still there, right? I said, "No, I don't have an appointment." He goes, "Oh, I don't know anything about it." I'm like, for your. So I went out front, different people walking by, and I'm just listening. And nothing out of the ordinary other than there was this lady that was walking, and she felt differently to me. She was walking her dog. I walk over to the lady. And I said, "Hey," I said, "You can help me with something?" And she goes, "What?" I said, I have an appointment for a massage here. I don't even know, but it looks like they've closed down." She goes, "You have an appointment?" I kind of lied. I said, "Yeah." And she makes a phone call, And a few minutes later, these big steel doors open. This madam is there. Me and my operators go in, tell her what we're looking for. She takes us up and around. We knew we were being watched. And, but she takes us back to this back area, and then there's this center foyer, and there's rooms all around the foyer with massage beds and queen-size mattresses in each one of them. And then she pulls out a menu. This menu has pictures of children and has specifics about the things that you want to get and how much each one of them would cost. And I said, yep, that's what my boss is looking for. We exchanged contact information. The feds were able to shut her down, shut the other ones down, rescued a whole bunch of kids right after we left because we were able to get in and find that information. This happens on every single rescue. And as long as you're in a place of complete unconditional love and unwavering faith, you're protected and you're led in areas that you could never imagine.
After hearing all that, I feel compelled to ask, what is the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual toll that you have to pay in this position? What's the tax that you have to pay to do this?
You've got to be in a really good place from a spiritual standpoint to be able to go into the recesses of hell like that. Mm-hmm. I've seen guys go in there and they come out and it affects them in both ways. Either, they're sick to their stomach, or they just can't deal with it emotionally. Others come out of it with a really unhealthy ego boost. Like, I freaking did that, and that unhealthy ego boost shows up in all their relationships, how they treat other people. It's just this negativity just eats at them. And a few years, about 6 years ago, and this was part of my transformation to qualify for finally a healthy relationship. I was one of my undercover operators came to me, and he said, Paul, do you trust me? I said, yeah, we do a lot of undercover stuff. Of course I trust you with my life. He said, he says, I found something that's helping me a lot in getting rid of some of that negative energy and that trauma we're holding on to. And I'm like, I don't hold on to the trauma. I'm Paul effing Hutchinson, right? But my trauma was being held on to in that negative way, like I was saying. An unhealthy ego and, unhealthy relationships. I was in my second marriage that just was, not working where it needed to be, et cetera. There was just a lot of things in my life that was because of how I was showing up or not showing up in my life. It was completely my doing. And so he brought me into a guided meditation transformational experience that changed everything for me. A deep dive into, a non-conventional, therapists weren't helping me because my trauma was self-imposed. I wasn't Paul Hutchinson. I was Paul effing Hutchinson, right? Built a multi-billion-dollar company and I rescued the kids. And this is, I was super unhealthy. And I would go into therapy offices and I'd tell the therapist why I was so cool. That's just how I was, right? So being able to put me into a place where through a holistic approach was able to put me into a deep theta state with some sound bowls and some other modalities, I was able to completely transform my life in ways that, for example, I felt in one of these guided meditation transformational experiences, the facilitator took me to a place where I could feel in every single cell in my body, I could feel the pain that my children experienced when I cheated on their mom, right? I could feel it. It was so dark and it was so heavy. I thought I was going to die. I couldn't even breathe. The depths of hell is where I was. I could feel myself so deep down in the earth. It was black. It was heavy. It was dark. It was so much pressure. And I had these headphones on. I was listening to this, what I call journey music, that was taking me there, and I was going through and then I couldn't handle it. And so I switched my playlist to what I call my Jesus list, right? It was some beautiful music, and I could feel myself being transformed as I just, all of that crap that was just chains that were holding me down was there. And then, boom, I flipped it back and I could go back down and I could feel the negativity that was being attached to me from being in those situations of the child trafficking type scenarios and stuff. And I was just, I could feel the pain of those children. And it was so dark and so heavy. And then I changed it back to my music again, and it pulled me out. And I could feel that transformation of letting go the decisions that I made of the past, letting go of the negative energy that other people had placed on me, letting go of that negativity of being in some of those situations. And it was so transformational in so many ways that I was now able to see a clear path to a healthy relationship, to a healthy connection with everybody around me, and most importantly, a healthy relationship with myself that wasn't based on ego and pride and fear, but it was based on love and true forgiveness for myself, for those stupid things that I did, forgiveness for other people for the stupid things that they did when they were out of integrity, and being able to get to a place where we could all move forward into the space of healing.
Thank you guys for tuning in. And really, I just want to highlight that doesn't matter what walk of life you are or where you are in your life, the continuity between all humans is that we all struggle. We all will face challenge. We all will face adversity. So going into this new year, if you guys can reframe your relationship with adversity and challenge and problems, and recognize that on the other side of these challenges, on the other side of this adversity, on the other side of these problems that you're going to face, inevitably, it's not whether you're going to face it or not, it's going to happen, that you're going to be able to grow from these challenges. And if you allow yourself to grow, then you will become better. And becoming better and growing into the next version of what you need to become the person that you're seeking to attain. You've got to go through it, unfortunately. I wish it was any other way. If you were to ask me, hey, what's the scariest situation you could go through in 2024? My answer would be that you're in the same place, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, that you were in 2023. The scariest thing that could happen for you in 2024 is that you do not grow, that you do not get better, that there's no incremental step-by-step, or there's no progress in your life. That's scary. With this new year, I wish you more success, more life, more growth, and more of the things in this life that are going to help you get better. The underlying thread in all of that is that you're going to experience adversity, you're going to experience challenge, and you're going to experience problems, self-inflicted or inflicted externally by things that are out of your control. And so I wish that for you too, because that's going to help you grow. And without adversity, there is no growth. Without resistance, there is no growth. I hope you take this message and you watch this content and you see these clips and it inspires you to push a little harder, and maybe even helps you recognize that you're not alone in this human experience, that there's people that are struggling and dealing with things. And if I brought you any value today, rate, review the podcast, share this with anyone that you think would resonate or enjoy the message or enjoy the content. And we'll see you next time. And happy 2024, happy new year, and happy holidays. Peace.